I learned about Passive House when I was a student at Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio. And that would have been probably about, must have been between 2002, 2003. It was kind of right towards the end, I think, of my experience at Antioch. And Pat Murphy, then of Community Solutions, had given a talk to my class, I believe, and he had this strange idea about houses that didn't need furnaces, which just sounded totally unbelievable, and I kind of took it with a grain of salt. And so about 2009, it came time where I was ready to start a construction business. And we decided that the Passive House model pretty much embodied the essence of what we wanted to, how we wanted to define ourselves, and we decided to take that on as a very first project. And so we built that house on speculation with no buyer. My business partner is Alex Melemed. Alex is the husband of my wife's best friend from college. We wanted him to come on board because he had a master's degree in architecture and had a lot of skills with respect to design and drawings and creating plans, and that was a set that I just really didn't have much strength in at the time. And so it's basically been Alex and myself that have sort of grown and created the company to today.
Green Generation Building introduced me to Passive House. I had the opportunity to pick up and move to Ohio to do design build, which has always been my goal and dream, and to build the highest level of eco-architecture out there, which I learned was Passive House.
At that time then in 2009, one of the very first Passive House conferences was being held in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois. And so Alex and I went to that conference and we learned more about Passive House concepts and how those buildings are constructed and how they're designed and the very exceedingly detailed particular aspects of their construction that are very complicated. And at that time, we're really still being formed in the United States because, you know, we didn't have as many of the materials available to us as, for example, where Passive House originated, which is Germany, where they have lots of materials. So there's a lot of creativity going on at that time, trying to figure out how do you create a building that performs to these metrics and these levels. With that in mind, we just set the task and started taking and adopting Passive House principles and incorporating them and learning about them and then ultimately practicing them.
We will not have any drafts, we will not have any noise, we will not have any dust in a Passive House because
our training in Passive House construction came about mainly through the conferences that we've attended over the years. I think we've been to almost every single one of them, if not all of them. We've had a presence there. My business partner, Alex Melemed, took the certified Passive House consultant training. So he was certified to actually model and create these houses at the planning stage. At the time, a friend of mine, Eric Lang, is a PhD mechanical engineer, and he helped guide us as well at that time for our first project before we became, certified in Passive House methods. He was one of the first to get certified. We spent at least 6 months developing that first project. We went through at least 30 revisions. So there was a tremendous amount of research and development and drafting and redrafting.
So I did the drawings and I learned an awful lot about it, and I swung hammers on a Passive House. And then I went for the technical certification, and having that experience really helped because it's pretty abstract when you're just studying it.
By and large, the construction portion was pretty smooth. There were a few hiccups here and there, as there are on all construction projects. But at the end, we wound up 0.3 air changes per hour, and the Passive House standard is 0.6.
0.6 air changes per hour, that's like less than 1. And any quality new construction is going to be well over that. The builder was sort of bragging last week to me that one of his houses made 2.4 air changes per hour at pressure, and that's great. That's good, because an older house might be 7 or 10, you know, just gushing air through the seams. And 2.4 is good. It's going to save you a lot of energy, but 0.6 is essentially no leakage, and that's where Passiv House wants to be, so that they can control the air that comes in and out.
Actually, it took another year or two to actually finalize the certification. There was a lot of back and forth, and we were you know, kind of inkling out some of the hiccups in our analysis and going back and forth with the Institute, but ultimately it did lead to a certification. It was the first house to begin construction that was to meet the Passiv House standard in Ohio.
In this climate, if I was hired to do a traditional building, it would either be somewhat non-traditional in terms of energy efficiency, or they would hire somebody else.